Those who have been, or currently are in the foster care system, what do you wish people knew? Foster care was fine. It's after you leave it that is hard. Being a new adult with absolutely nobody to guide you. You want to move, you have no help. A crisis comes up, you have nobody to call. Nobody to help you figure out anything about jobs or apartments or bank accounts or insurance. No mom or dad to lend you 20 bucks when your paycheck isn't going to last until next payday. You are sent out on your own, 18 years old, completely alone and no idea how anything works in the world. It's terrifying. I was in foster care, on and off, for some of middle/high school. It was whatever, and always a difficult adjustment to living the life I was living. No rules, everyone doing drugs all of the time, and seemingly I'd get more in line, and fit in with the family, and then get moved back home, or with a family member, and then it would start again. I want people to know how hard early adulthood is with no family though. I turned 17, got kicked out, and was too old to be replaced. I graduated high school living at my boyfriend's parents' house at the time. I had, miraculously, had a teacher who told me I could go to college and he actually helped me make that happen. I mean, this man showed up to my shitty part-time job on the weekends and dropped off food/books/gift cards for gas and helped me fill out a FAFSA and write my admissions essay. He literally changed my life because he cared. Now I'm adult, 26, and I'm still amazed I made it. I don't have kids of my own, but I can't wait to get to the point where I can foster kids. I know what it's like, and sometimes being a foster parent isn't only in going to adopt a baby. Sometimes it's I'm gonna make sure this angry 16-year-old knows our options for the future, and I want to be that person for someone. I have a little brother who was adopted from the foster system. Our parents are good people. The most heartbreaking things that I noticed from him in the beginning were a kind of confusion at being treated well by our parents, and also confusion at being treated as just one of us/included as a family member. There are some not so good foster homes out there. In foster care, since I was 9. It isn't, I can't stress this enough. Nothing like your family life. Many of us were taken from our parents or outright ditched by them. In the latter, some of us never or never will meet our parents. A lot of foster families, I've been in some, have no qualms about reminding you of the godly gift of the smallest shittiest room in the building. They are very quick to bring up the power to instantly evict you with just a single phone call with little to no justification for it. Foster siblings, especially if they are teenaged and or used to being only children, will constantly and not hesitate to take advantage of their parents' favoritism over you. But it's not all hellish. I was eventually put into a very good placement. They went through hell to help me through the hell of my mind and emotions, and help me balance out as a person. They made sure I was aware of the pride they felt for me without me becoming conceited in any way. They were so good to me, they even allowed to stay and rent my room after I left the care system. There are good people as foster parents. There just needs to be more. Just don't be a dick. Don't get rid of their personal belongings without speaking to them. Sometimes a ratty shirt or a torn up backpack is all they have left of home. A lot of foster youth have experienced trauma that may or may not affect their behaviors, which is something you have to acknowledge and understand. When a kid does something that seems to make little sense, analyze their actions and try to determine what is going on, rather than jumping to the conclusion that the kid is bad or that they are trying to upset you. Additionally, speaking of bad kids, when working with multiple kids, don't idolize one and speak poorly of the others. And don't make assumptions. I was a good kid. I didn't get into trouble and was quiet and got good grades. When I was older, however, they struggled to find a placement. Once I interviewed for a home, the social worker just brought me to a house to meet the family, but when the family met me, they flat out said, openly, that I couldn't live there because, as a foster youth, I would clearly try to seduce their son, 15, 16-ish, despite the fact that I was 12, I think, and had no history of acting out sexually. When I did get placements, because I was good, the foster parent/s would often speak poorly about the other children to me or around me. When they had guests, they would claim themselves martyrs of the bad kids while putting me on a pedestal. While they may have thought they were helping me or raising my confidence, it did not help me trust them, and certainly didn't help the kids they bitched about. My mom starting doing foster care when I was in middle school. She was a single mother who already had 6 of her own kids, so it was clear to see that she loved children. When I was a senior in high school, she adopted her first foster child, a little girl who came directly to us at 8 days old from the hospital fighting drug addiction. A year and a half later, we had 2 more foster children, a brother and sister, whose parents were in and out of shelters because they kept robbing others and being kicked out. They still had visitation rights for about a year and a half before one of them came back with a burn on her arm. After that, my mom adopted them as well. Then, my mom got a call that the first child we adopted had a 1-year-old brother in the system. You probably know where this is going. We adopted him as well. About 3 years later, my mom got word that their mother had another child in prison, and before they could even ask, we took her in too. She was a little less than a year at the time, but before she turned 3 we had adopted her as well, increasing the family total to 11. Most people I talk to tell me mom is a saint. I always respond with, she's either that or insane. What I do know is that 3 months ago I watched my 13-year-old sister, who I remember holding while she wrapped tightly in a blanket shaking at 8 days old, sing Somewhere Over the Rainbow as the Dorothy in her middle school play. All I could do not to cry was tell myself that I was sitting front row and she could see me. Then, in the same week I watched my 11-year-old brother win another wrestling tournament, after which I had to flex on him to keep him humble. In the end they are all happy, healthy, and when I come home to visit they all run to give me a hug and welcome me back. If you're reading this and you're in the system now and feel like you're in a bad place, I want you to know that there are people out there who will love you and take you in as family. Life can be tough, but you're tougher. My husband and I were set to foster. We had done the classes, home study, everything. However, I was diagnosed with cancer and we were unable to complete. We were then denied when we reapplied. When I was in remission, I was able to join an organization that partners with foster teens who are aging out of the system to provide mentoring services. I'm in hours and I help with resumes, interview prep, job seeking, etc. I'm also just an adult who is available to listen. There are ways to support the foster system if you are unable to foster a child. I'm so grateful that I'm allowed this opportunity. I got really lucky and was placed with a decent family that didn't treat me like a second-class citizen. I was family. I've seen horror stories of other places where kids starve or are mistreated in their homes. I had the best possible situation and I won't deny that at all. However, it's still so much to deal with as a small child. Remember when you were a kid and you cried when left at the babysitter's? Imagine going to live at the babysitter's house. My mom wasn't a bad mom. She was a troubled woman trying to get away from an abuser. I was in the home for about half a decade, which is an eternity as a small kid. At 10, half my life had been split between 2 moms and I wasn't sure what I was allowed to feel. When I finally went back home, would my real mom be upset that I missed my foster mom? Should I talk about missing my old school? The home I stayed at also had upwards of 4 foster kids at a time, who shuffled in and out. A bunch of kids from ages 3 to 16 who had been through some horrendous stuff. And there I was, a broken kid surrounded by other broken kids. It's a hell of an environment, no matter how good the parents are. I was in foster care in my teens. My experience may be different than others, but I found that if you aren't small and cute you are treated as tainted goods. The social worker doesn't really care about you unless you can make the business money, and if you make them good money they find a way to keep you for as long as possible. They can keep a child until they are 24 quite easily. You are often treated as if you are bad because your parents didn't want you anymore. Upon arriving at a group home I was instantly stripped of all privileges, including being able to listen to music, and had to earn the smallest of things back over the next 3 months. It felt like I was being punished. There are also no resources for when you leave the system. Foster families are often low income, using you for the extra income given to take care of you without actually using that money on you. They often don't teach you life skills. Education can easily get messed up because you are moved around as soon as you become an inconvenience to the family. Switching between blocks and periods makes it so that your credits don't count in certain instances. When I left foster care I found out a year and a half of my schooling wouldn't count, and it took another 3 months for them to transfer my records. The school told me to drop out and get my JED. It's not as bad as people might think. But I also consider myself very lucky because I know it could have been worse. I was taken away and placed with a foster family immediately when I was 2. They later adopted me when I was 5. My earliest memories? They were just like you would expect with any other family. They made absolutely sure that we weren't treated like anything other than family. Things were a lot harder for them than it was for me, as they fostered other children they didn't think should go back to their families, but there was nothing they could do. One of their biggest regrets was not being able to adopt my brother as well, since the courts ruled in the favor of his father, half-siblings. They taught me that just because someone is related to you doesn't make you family. Those that treat you like family are family.